Welcome to Registered, the podcast of the Catholic Register, where we'll be taking a look at the stories that graced all of our platforms over the past week. I'm Mickey Conlon, editor of the Register, alongside reporters Luke Mandato and Quinton Amundson. And this week's episode is brought to you by the Daily TV Mass. This November, we remember all those who have gone before us in faith. You're invited to share the names of your dearly departed to be included in the Daily TV Mass Book of Remembrance. A special intention will be offered at every Mass throughout November for all those listed. Visit dailytvmass.com to submit your names today. Well, boys, the biggest news of all, unfortunately, we won't be talking about. We spoke about it last week, of course. That being your Toronto Blue Jays. But here's the thing. Maybe by this time next week, with a little faith, a little bit of prayer, maybe we're talking about the World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays. Keep them in your prayers, guys. So what we will talk about, what we've got is a little bit of good news for churches and their charitable status. We had a little scoop from our man in Calgary, Quinton. He was able to confirm that the federal government will not be pulling the charitable status of faith-driven organizations and churches, though we're not sure that the pro-life groups will be given that same courtesy. Quinton, why don't you tell us about the cloud that's been hanging over the heads of these charities for basically the better part of a year?
It was, back in last December, Mickey, that the pre-budget consultations report came out with proposals for this year's budget and recommendation 429 for pro-life entities and 430 for for actual advancement of faith charitable organizations. There was a call to amend the Income Tax Act to remove the privileged status for those respective types of charities. This has been hanging as a cloud for nearly 11 months now. And there have been a lot of campaigns that have been waged. There have been letters sent from the CCCB and a lot of other faith groups across the country urging the Department of Finance not to follow this course of action. And in a interview I was doing with author of a Frontier Center policy report, Pierre Gilbert, he forwarded along an email that the Reverend Al Postma received from MP Karina Gould's office, and that is very significant. This Liberal MP is the chair of the Standing Committee on Finance, the committee that released that pre-budget consultations report. And it laid out pretty articulately that this government is not going to be touching the charitable status of religious organizations. So, that would be a big sigh of relief. And of course, everybody wants to see the actual, written report in the budget when it comes out on November 4th, just to really put their minds at ease. But things are looking very positively that this charitable status will be safeguarded because we're going to be talking a lot about what these faith-driven nonprofits bring to our Canadian society.
Well, of course, we've been talking about this for months now, leading up to this, and as you say, there's no official announcement. We will see on November 4th, but it's certainly looking good. And I guess what I look at in this is we've got this new government, this new Liberal government, very much the same as the old one, but they, because of the leadership at the top, must be part of the reason, they are walking back on the previous government under Justin Trudeau's bad policies, and rightfully so, especially in this case. Like, who in their right mind, sitting in a chair in official Ottawa, would suggest that a church's charitable status should be revoked just for being a faith-driven entity?
Well, it just doesn't make sense from the economic calculus. There have been so many credible think tanks, notably Cardis, that have released their report earlier this year that shows that these faith-driven nonprofits bring in about $16.5 million in economic value annually.
Million, or was it billion?
Yeah, 16.5 billion. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank
Yes.
you very much for clarifying. Compared to the 1.7 to 3.2 billion dollars that taxing all of these charitable institutions would net. So that is decisively, well up to 500 to 700% higher of a return, and keeping just the traditions intact. But I mean, we know that it's not just economics that these institutions bring to our country. When I spoke to Pierre Gilbert, he said very well that there is a beacon of transcendence and truth that comes from churches and the nonprofits that are very much inspired by the church. And if you take that away, it's very easy for a society to lose a sense of purpose, its moral compass, and there's a lot more chaos and discord that could be sown out of that. So we're talking about something that's way more profound than the dollars and cents, but the dollars and cents argument is very compelling.
No, I think Quinton summed it up nicely. It's just like you said, Mickey. I think it's interesting, like who in their right mind initially thought this is the way to go. And it looks like there were a couple different schools of thought, but seeing things trend the other way now is, I would say, just a relief. Is the main word that comes to mind. I guess we'll see on the 4th what the official statement becomes and what it looks like. But no, I think that's all.
It's looking good. So I know, Quinton, you were trying to get it right from Karina Gould's mouth. It was just from the staff that you got it. So hopefully
indeed, and we are trying. I'm actively still, in contact with the Gould's office, and also I reached out to the Department of Finance because I'd love to get some sort of a statement similar that says that pro-life groups are going to be protected, that there will be no risk to the charitable status being removed from these organizations. And of course, we know the work that's done, crisis pregnancy centers, for instance. And if you want to see the power of what pro-life organizations do in our country, there's a little feature called Lives Lived for Life that the Catholic Register did in 2024. You might want to try and take a look at that because they bring a lot in addition to what the faith organizations do across the world and in our country.
And a lot of that not possible without substantial funding and charitable status funding, for sure. So, well
Absolutely.
said.
I do have my doubts that the pro-life organizations will get as good a reception as the churches are in official Ottawa, because we know they're pro-choice is the default position of the Liberals, of course, and the NDP, and even the Conservatives have they've promised in so many instances that no, we're not going to revisit these abortion laws and things like that. And of course, MAID just keeps expanding. So we'll see. Come November 4th, the proof will be in the pudding. So. Okay, also coming out of the West, Quinton, I know you spent a little time, and you've been spending quite a bit of time recently on the AI, artificial intelligence. And this past weekend, you attended the AI symposium at St. Mary's University, which was held in conjunction with the Diocese of Calgary. So it's a question that not just you have been frequently asking, but it's been asked in church circles. We've got popes talking about AI. So, Quinton, why don't you give us a rundown, in particular, of Calgary Bishop William McGrattan and his comments from the symposium?
It was a very intellectually stimulating environment. There were tech experts, there were theologians, there were ethicists, there were educators that came together to listen to presentations. And roundtable discussions that generated, more important questions and ethical considerations. I mean, newsflash, we didn't solve the AI problem in that meeting, because it's a very difficult, unwinding issue that so many people are trying to get their hands around, and that's going to be a very difficult proposition to say the least. But it did feature some strong experts. They brought in Matthew Harvey Sanders, who founded the #1 Catholic AI platform, Magisterium AI, Dr. Stephen Umbrello from the University of Turin. We have spoken to both those gentlemen in the last few months. They had some interesting things to say, but Bishop McGrattan received a really good reception to his presentation on day 2 about the ethical considerations and a possible framework of adopting AI in the Catholic Church. So he said, of course, with the evangelization efforts, we need to ensure that the human dignity and flourishing remains intact. We must not prescribe these human qualities to AI and try to make it something that it's not. All the speakers were very clear. This is a thing that has pattern recognition and probability. It does not have an interior life. It will never be human. It could never match up to the beautiful things that come from being made in the imago Dei, the image of God. So we got to be very careful about that. But we also have to make sure that we are not ignoring this technology. I think that the standout quote is, we cannot be an illiterate church. It's about finding a line between being fearful and ignorant to just embracing it wholesale. And I know that he brought forth some things about what our positions need to be on key issues about job displacement that could come out of it. How we should be ensuring that it's not being used as a tool for community and companionship, that we need to be very good with having in-person community structures to make sure it is strong. And I mean, people are going to be really navigating this in university circles. And I mean, that's something that you probably found in your context, Luke, graduating from university in the last couple of years. I think you and your classmates have already been talking about these issues and what it means for your generation.
Absolutely, Quinton. I think more so now, definitely, kind of looking back on that time. I would say me and some of my peers have been discussing it, but I think it's funny you brought up issues like, ethical considerations and a framework and a good idea about how to regulate something like AI. I'll tell both of you right now and everyone listening, a few years ago when I was in university, there was no ethical considerations. There was no framework on how to use it. It was just sort of this new thing that was a free-for-all, really. And as Quinton said, I graduated from post-secondary and university just a handful of years ago when this was sort of slowly on the rise. And I'll never forget, going to class or going to study and having some of my peers say, have you seen this AI thing, what this thing can do? And it became almost like this sort of mini revolution on campus where within a week's time, it was popping up in, discussions in class. It was popping up outside of class. It was popping up when we were doing assignments, when we were doing things, apart from assignments in class. So, I think it's good for something as big and as important as the Catholic Church to take these things into consideration. But what blows me away, I think, is just the speed at how fast this is starting to develop. The fact that this is becoming topic of discussions, topic of keynote lectures within the Catholic Church. Because a few years ago, it was something that just kind of hit the scene so fast and so unregulated, I'd say, that no one really knew what to do with it, me included. I think it's a good thing, like you said, that people are now starting to open their eyes and realize the power that this has, not turning a blind eye to that power, but being very careful about how they approach it as well.
Well, one of the things that Matthew Harvey Sanders said in relation to, it's important to have a clear roadmap, he likes to cite somebody that we all know very well, Cardinal Thomas Collins, the former Archbishop of Toronto, who always likes to say, if you know where you're going, you'll know better how to get there. And interestingly, Bishop McGrattan also cited Cardinal Collins because he was mentioning, Bishop McGrattan did, about this, structure, this institute that the Alberta bishops did to reflect on these key issues. And he wanted to maybe do this at the CCCB level first, but Cardinal Colin said, well, you might as well do it in Alberta because, as you know, things tend to grind very slowly at the conference. So he empowered the Alberta bishops to just do their thing. And I think it's very good that they are wanting to take the lead and sparking these conversations that'll hopefully take root across the other major dioceses in Canada.
Well, what I like about this is there's no fear. Is what I'm getting. That is, why would we want to fear it? It's reality, so we've got to adapt to it. And the church looks like it's is getting ready to hopefully embrace it. But it could always be like the Terminator from back in the '90s, where who knew? It wasn't really a movie; it was a documentary. Let's hope it doesn't come down to the machines taking over.
I heard that throughout the weekend. The Terminator's a documentary. The Matrix is a documentary. We're all living in a simulation. We're not actually having this conversation right now. We're all plugged up to a battery. I mean, there are people that, like to, some like to do it for fun, but some people actually believe in this stuff. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of interesting voices and conversations. But yes, Mickey, the Terminator was mentioned by dozens of people throughout this 2-day conference.
Oh, profound 30 some odd years ago, good Canadian guy, James Cameron, did it for us. Could be a scary prospect. Let's hope it's not. What we will do, though, is move on to our next scary prospect. That would be Halloween. Ooh. Maybe not as scary as we think, though, right, Luke? I know you did our cover story this week about how many parishes are going back to the origins of the festivities. How about you tell us about, in particular, I believe it was St. Mary's in Ottawa, and, for the life of me, St. John of the Cross in Mississauga?
John of the Cross, there you go.
There we go.
You had it. Yeah, this was a great sort of little look back into the history of Halloween. Of course, it's that time of year, spooky, of course, as you said, but we're so familiar with groups and people putting Christ back in Christmas when we look at people wanting to keep the religious observance of Christmas at the forefront of the holiday. I thought this was pretty interesting. There's a couple parishes throughout Canada, across the country, that are trying to put the halo back in Halloween, as they put it. And one of those, of course, was St. Mary's University, St. Mary's Parish in Ottawa, who are hosting an All Saints Eve party. This is something that the parish has been doing at least since the early 2000s. The gentleman I spoke with at the parish there, Zach Duval, who's running it now actually with his wife, attended as a child back in the early 2000s. And it was something he said he always looked forward to. Essentially, the concept, Mickey, is children who don't celebrate Halloween in the typical sense, whether that's, decorating their house with different insignias or emblems, or that don't go trick-or-treating or don't dress up in certain costumes that, the holiday has become so enamored with in recent years. They're welcome to go to St. Mary's Parish, where they can dress up as their favorite saint or Bible character. It's a great night of sort of food, fun, entertainment. There's Bible trivia about the saints, costume contests, of course your trademark candy and sort of fellowship through candy, as one of them put it. I just thought it was an interesting concept, and this sort of goes back to the Catholic origins of Halloween, of course, with All Hallows Eve and All Souls Day that comes after on November 1st. Or on November 2nd, rather. Just something that I think a lot of Catholics don't really think about. And when you look at a celebration that's become so watered down and so mainstream and so secularized for a long time now. So that was interesting to see how that was going on in the nation's capital. It's also something that's been adapted and offered at St. John of the Cross in Mississauga. They've been running their own sort of All Saints party with a similar theme for, I think, about 6 or 7 years now. So it's been interesting to see, and the most interesting thing, Mickey, might be the fact that these are starting to pop up in parishes around the GTA as well, who I spoke with at John of the Cross said he's familiar with a couple other ones, parties for Halloween for children that are more, directed towards the Catholic angle, popping up in Toronto in recent years.
And the numbers sound like they're pretty good. You're getting, upwards of 100 kids coming to these celebrations, which I find kind of fascinating. Nice to see, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not one of those things where the parish hall is empty. It seems like something where families and children really do show up for it. And Zach Duval, who I spoke with at St. Mary's, said, they're kind of one of the only ones really in the Ottawa area. And he says people drive in from all over, half an hour to an hour drives on Halloween night to come and attend, which, it's unbelievable. And I think it goes to show, he said, Halloween and just going out and trick-or-treating, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But he says there's definitely been a shift he and some other families and parents of children have noticed over the years, that Halloween becoming a lot darker, a lot more, just a scary thing for children who don't really understand it yet at that age. And this is giving them an opportunity to celebrate in a way that's comfortable, in a way that respects and honors their faith. And at the foremost is just a good time. He said the main message of it is not really education, although of course there's education elements. It's really just about giving the children a good time and some delicious candy on Halloween. So it was a nice little chat for sure.
Anything like this out west that you're seeing, Quinton?
I mean, not right now, because all the schools are on strike. So
yes.
but traditionally there has been those alternatives, and I think that's one of the things that stood out in your story, Luke, is they're being intentional. Like in this culture that we live in, you need to have that very appealing alternative, and you want to have that momentum going into All Saints and All Souls Days. So I appreciate that they're being very mindful of what nurturing Catholic students need right now.
Well, it's just everything ends up getting commercialized, right? They're stealing all the church's good ideas and turning into capitalism. Oh, it's terrible, that thing, that capitalism. Oh, well. And of course, the day after Thanksgiving, we will be seeing all the ads for Christmas. And the commercial interests have stolen Christmas from us too, but we know what Christmas is about. So
as soon as that Spirit Halloween in your mall closes, the Hallmark opens back up, and it's Christmas all over again, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be the overnight shift taking everything down and throwing up all the Christmas stuff for November 1st. So, well, speaking of capitalism, we wouldn't be able to bring things like this unless we had special advertisers that help us bring these things to you, bring our paper to you every week, bring our website to you, 24/7. So this week I have to give a shout out to all the fine institutes of Catholic higher education across Canada. As we did our annual higher education fall issue, and we've got some pretty good reading in there. So I'm asking you all, or imploring you, to go to our website to watch, to read some of these stories. Some of the partners that have helped us out, Our Lady Seat of Wisdom in Barry's Bay, always with us every year. St. Mark's and Corpus Christi College out in BC, where our man, Dr. Jerry Turcott, is the principal. He's also a columnist for the Register. You can read monthly. St. Thomas More College in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon in particular, St. Paul University in Ottawa, St. Jerome's in Waterloo, another longtime partner of ours, as well as Regis and St. Mike's at the University of Toronto. And of course, the Catholic Education Foundation of Ontario, they also joined in to allow us to bring this to you. So please go to our website and look at some of the interesting stories coming out of Catholic higher education. And of course, that list I just read is by no means finite there. We've got so many other partners. We've got Campion out in Regina. We've got it's just too many. They're everywhere. Please support your Catholic universities and institutes of higher education. So, well, I guess that will bring this episode to a close. So we'd like to thank you for joining us. Thanks to Quinton and Luke, and we hope you can join us next time for Registered. Meanwhile, for all your Catholic news, be sure to stay informed at catholicregister.org. And one more shout out to the Daily TV Mass, this week's sponsor of this episode, where this November they will be remembering all those who have gone before us in faith. So you're invited to share the names of your dearly departed to be included in the Daily TV Mass Book of Remembrance. A special intention will be offered at every Mass throughout November for all those listed. Visit dailytvmass.com to submit your names today. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next week.